also be informal. It can be really worthwhile to do some informal investigating yourself. It's less expensive. It's good to use private investigators. It can help you figure out if you have a strong case or a weak case, if you would want to go to trial. You can do some informal electronic searches too. You need to know, and your attorney needs to know as much as possible. You don't want surprises. So formal discovery. Formal discovery is governed by the rules of discovery, which is bad in that they're complex and expensive, but good in that it keeps the process under control to some extent. Interrogatories are sets of questions. Usually the rules will allow about 25 or 30 questions. And they're formal questions about the case that try to find out a great deal of information, and your attorney will answer them and will try to give as little information as possible. And that's kind of the way that game works. They're binding, so anything that goes into the interrogatory you're stuck with for good. They can bring it in as evidence at trial. So usually what happens with that is the attorney drafts the answers and you review it and make corrections and say, no, it really wasn't this way, it was something else. And then that gets incorporated and it gets turned over. It will not sound very much like your personal journal when it's done. Requests for production are usually documents. They can be, they can be the rod that the kid got spanked with. They can be the gun that the person got shot with. But mostly it's lots and lots of documents. And they may be very burdensome. The plaintiff may ask you for 50 years worth of information about everything on God's green earth. And then there's going to be an argument back and forth about whether all that's relevant, whether they really have to produce it, if it's very expensive, whether you have to pay to produce it or somebody else. The other side may have to pay for part of that. And this is where you might also get a request to inspect your property or that type of thing. Requests for admission are statements that you're told to agree with or deny. And if there's anything at all in the statement that you don't agree with, your attorney's going to have you deny the statement. Even a word, because if you agree to it, that's factually binding on you for the rest of the case. So typically, requests for admissions aren't extremely useful except for real basic, simple facts like, yes, I was at such and such a place at 3 o'clock on such and such a day.
Who would those come from?
Each side sends them to the other side, and they get sent to the attorneys. The other attorney is not allowed to communicate with you directly once there's a lawsuit, and vice versa. And there can be discovery from third parties, often keepers of records. They're, released for medical information or that kind of thing.